Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
This episode is powered by and supported by. On the occasion of World Mental Health Day, we bring to you a special episode on mental health and well-being.
We bring to you 3 perspectives on mental health today: a personal story, an organizational one, and one that comes from a professional.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is me, Rahila Nadeem. I am a restaurant owner of Desi Dastarkhan. I'm a mother of 3 all-adult kids, and I'm a life coach by profession. Me and my husband, Nadeem Saab, started this restaurant 15 years back, and he passed away. It's been 8 years. जब हमने ये रेस्टोरेंट शुरू किया था ना, तो हमें नहीं पता था कि ये रेस्टोरेंट चलेगा भी या नहीं, बट बहरीन वेलकम्ड इट विद ओपन आर्म्स. हम दोनों हस्बैंड वाइफ ने बड़ी मेहनत की इस पे, एंड माय हस्बैंड नदीम साहब बीइंग द पर्सन, ही टॉट मी एवरीथिंग अबाउट दिस रेस्टोरेंट, हाउ टू रन इट, हाउ टू डू द मार्केटिंग, how to do everything, even talk to the workers. And one night, one day, I must say, he just went away. तो उस दिन मुझे ऐसा लगा कि अल्लाह पाक ने इतना टाइम जो मुझे उनके साथ दिया, वो सिखा रहे थे मुझे. And then one day Allah said, now the class is yours. I think this is life. My first step was healing, was to come to terms with it that अल्लाह की मर्ज़ी है, and अल्लाह की मर्ज़ी के आगे हम हार गए हैं. That's the day when I understood. नहीं तो किसी की ताकत नहीं है कि हमारे सामने से हमारे हस्बैंड को उठा के ले जाएं and हम कुछ ना कर सकें. I was like hit by a bus, and I would also like to say that I had an amazing husband, a very loving person, a person who loved me to bits. दुनिया की सबसे खूबसूरत औरत के अलावा उन्होंने कभी उससे कम मुझे कभी नहीं बुलाया. तो मेरे लिए तो ऐसा था जैसे किसी ने ना पैरों के तले ज़मीन खींच ली है. जब नदीम साहब चले गए ना, तो the initial months मुझे सिरा नहीं मिल रहा था, कहाँ से पकूँ, कहाँ से उठाऊँ. But I honestly didn't have that, and I couldn't have done it because I had a restaurant which had a very good reputation, and I had to take care of that. So हमने तो इद्दत भी नहीं की. I had to go to the restaurant every day. But my daughter Aruba Nadeem really, उसने मुझे संभाला, and my both sons, Hamid and Ahmed. Ahmed was very small, but he was there. But Aruba did her part as a daughter. She made me walk alone in those initial years, and I had I was very close to Nadeem's niece, Hania Dada, who is now in US. She was there all along. So I was blessed and surrounded by amazing people. जब लाइफ में इतनी बड़ी ट्रेजेडी हो जाती है ना, तो आपको एक फोकस चाहिए होता है ज़िंदगी में, और वो फोकस मुझे लाइफ कोच बनने से मिला. मुझे ऐसा लगा कि मेरी ज़िंदगी बहुत खूबसूरत रही है, और हमारे बराबर में लोगों की इतनी अच्छी नहीं होती. I was blessed, yes. So then I thought that, yes, I could use my life experiences and maybe help others. And I thought I had it in me कि मैं दूसरों को help कर सकती हूँ to move forward in life and see things differently. I did a lot of therapy. I went through a lot of therapy myself. then I did some life coaching sessions with a couple of people. I, I learned myself. I took a program in which I became a certified life coach and a CBT practitioner, cognitive behavior therapist. And now I help people worldwide. In my journey, I would say that coming back from my grief was just not like coming back. I had to grow with my grief and build on it because I had a business to take care of, 3 children, all going to be adults, dealing with teenagers. So I really had to change my mindset on a lot of things. So once you change your mindset towards a positive note that helps you grow, then whatever you think is positive. Allah khair kare, and you never have to go through something like this, but life comes and it happens. It happens overnight. I would say that, जब ऐसी tragedy hit करे, तो you should, first you should just sit down and think it through. सोचें क्या करना है ज़िंदगी में, क्या आप, what do you want to achieve? You have to set goals to it. You have to figure out ways. So once you sit down and think it through, so then that's where you start. That's where I started, when I figured out कि हाँ मुझे अब ये करना है, जो हो गया है उसको I have to just grief is like you learn to live with it. You have to just live with it. It doesn't go away. I talk with experience. It doesn't go away. आप उसके around जीना सीख जाते हैं. See, I never had a lot of family indulgence क्योंकि हम वो stage पे life के पहुंच गए थे कि we as a couple were good enough. So, and as I said, Aruba was very supportive in all that. So the first thing she did was to send me to therapy, and that helped. And मैं सबको कहूँगी कि help मांगने में कोई शर्म नहीं है. Help मांगने से बहुत फ़र्क पड़ जाती है ज़िंदगी. और आजकल जिस दौर में हम रह रहे हैं, हमें help ले लेनी चाहिए. Because सिंक होने से बेहतर है फ्लोट होना, राइट? अपने आप में वो कॉन्फिडेंस आपके अंदर होना चाहिए. आई वॉज ब्लेस्ड बिकॉज हमारे हस्बैंड ने हमें ये दिया था. ही मेड मी द वुमेन आई एम टुडे. अगर उनका इतना सपोर्ट ना होता, फिर उसके बाद जब वो चले गए तो मेरे बच्चों ने मुझे बहुत सपोर्ट किया. तो ओवरऑल आई वुड से दैट हम अपने आप को, मतलब अपने ऊपर हमें मेहनत करना लाजिम है. क्योंकि देखें, ज़िंदगी ख़त्म होनी है, लोग चले जाते हैं जिससे हम मोहब्बत करते हैं, आजमाइशें होती हैं अल्लाह की तरफ से. बट दीज आर ऑल लेसन्स ऑफ लाइफ विच वी हैव टू लर्न. एंड जितना हम अपने आप पे लाइक सेल्फ लव, कितना किसी को बोलो जो ना समझे उसको बहुत बुरा लगता है. उनको लगता है कि ओह ये तो बहुत सेल्फिश हैं, लेकिन इट्स नॉट बीइंग सेल्फिश. बहुत ज़रूरी है आज के टाइम पे कि हम ये मेहनत हम अपने ऊपर कर लें. आगे इन द लॉन्ग रन इट विल बी अ बिग हेल्प. किस्सा इज़ एन अमेजिंग प्रोग्राम. मुझे लगता है कि इट्स वेरी क्लोज टू माई हार्ट. आई एम ऑलवेज देयर फॉर देम and I will always be there for Qyssa. It's doing great. I would love to be a part of it all the time. And I feel कि जब हम दूसरों के लिए मेहनत करते हैं ना, तो अल्लाह हमारे लिए खुद ही मेहनत कर देते हैं. हमें फिर कोई ख़ास मेहनत नहीं करनी पड़ती. अल्लाह पाक टेक्स केयर ऑफ दैट. और उस above everything, नीयत इज़ द की. और आपकी नीयत है ना लोगों को हेल्प करने की, तो वो नीयत पे अल्लाह आपको दे देते हैं.
I'm Sarmad Ahmed. I am a chemical engineer turned entrepreneur, well-being company for mental health across 21 countries at the moment. I'd been working for a very nice company, Procter & Gamble, for 10 years. It was lovely. Lekin at some point, you get bored of doing similar things or not putting enough value in it. So I got lucky enough that I had some opportunities after the company, and I have a lot of experience through the family and through our culture around mental health and how it's not looked after. So I did an MBA and I started this company. 10 years working in Procter & Gamble. I know how to run operations. I know how to make soap. But also, the only other thing I know from my own family background is how to care for people and how little care there is for people with mental health issues. Even if it's couples who don't know how to be together properly, if it's actual mental health like more medical problems, and you realize that there's not enough help. I know that this is a pain point, this is a real problem, maybe I can help. So we do it in many ways. When you know how to listen to the customers and what they want. So for example, we're the only people running migrant workers' mental health lines across Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. We do this in Hindi, Urdu, Bengali, Nepali. Hotline is not an innovation, but catering for this population is not an innovation, but because some of our very good clients or companies wanted this help, we provided it. We're working with some companies around AI. For example, you can tell just by your voice if somebody is stressed or not. So it's called vocal biomarkers by Sound Health. So it's a Boston-based company. They've partnered with us to provide this service across the Middle East. So we're doing that now as well. So I think you flow. You flow with wherever the world takes you. If you count in terms of money, right, I don't think that's the right way to look at a business. There's easier ways of making money. Get a good job. A corporate job is sweet, very sweet. It's a great way to learn. I think what you should measure maybe is impact. What I do today, wow, like I'm humbled. Like we do a lot of work. We cover about 500,000 people. And those 500,000 people, we have so many stories. We've met executives who are addicts and they need help. People going through divorce, they might be in boardrooms. And then you have the real poor people. And then you find them and you help them out. So that kind of impact, to be very frank with you, I pay myself a salary that I was making when I was 22. But it's not about the money. Also, eventually it'll pay out. It doesn't matter. Right? Eventually these things will pay out. But if you're doing it for the money, there's easier ways of making money. But if you're doing it for some passion, for meaning, it's so much fun. Like my co-founder, she's a therapist based out of Karachi. She also makes sure that, we are under supervision, because if we are even getting in touch with people who are not okay, well-being cases, we're meeting them on the ground. We go to labor camps a lot. There's happy people, there's sad people in all walks of life. So there's not one case, there's many, many cases, and they affect you a lot. For the past 4 years or 5 years that we've been doing a lot of migrant workers' health, there's lovely people out there, right? They really help everybody out. They make sure all the workers are happy. So it's a privilege. It feels very, very good to do it. So we don't take individual cases, but we don't say no to people. So if people come on our website and they say, I need help, so we will provide them a therapist, and we could negotiate a rate for them because we know these therapists, they're on our panel, depending on where they are, which city, right? We operate in like 21 countries, so it depends on where they're coming from. We can say, okay, you can't afford it. Sometimes we'll pay for it. So sometimes we have a fund for a charity. So every now and then we're like, we won't let you go if you can't afford it, go for it. Like we'll pay from our pocket. But we don't deal with direct clients. So counseling is one thing, anger management, I didn't get paid, I can call his HR. But what happens if a person is beyond that, like this clinical depression or something? We're not a hospital, we're not we stay away from that. So we're a tech platform that caters to corporates and their well-being. And of course, because we make money, we do have let's say, charitable wing or something. We will provide therapy to people. The students come up all the time. I need therapy, can you afford it? You can't, don't worry about it, we'll pay for it. It's a bit of everything. So mental health for the new generation, they're more psychoeducated. So they understand, they will use it. Depends on case by case, company by company. Banks tend to use it more. Banks have a younger population, they have office work. Factories will not use it as much, more of a macho sort of a culture. But what we do is, and maybe this is the innovation, because we're talking to men on the ground, welders, workers, laborers, right? We talk through sports. We're like, if Ronaldo can miss a penalty, if Virat Kohli can get out on the last ball. If Babar Azam can do XYZ, that means he's human, you're human. By placing the sportsman as human and also like something they relate to, and talking about stress and its effects, they open up. We go to corporates, and corporates who understand that their workers are why they are who they are. We can't convince a corporate that the worker is important, but there's a lot of good companies who are already convinced. So they will come to us and they will say, let's use your services because our people are not okay. And sometimes people don't know. The headquarters, the safety people, the HR people, they don't know what's happening on the ground. So by giving them two things. So number one, we do awareness, of course, but we have a mandate. If something is wrong, HR has the political will to help. So we'll say, hey, this person called, he has this thing, this problem. It might be a big problem, small problem. Lekin, if you have that mandate, people will help, right? And what happens is the worker is here to earn money. He's happy to earn money. He came for this reason. He understands this is a hot country and he wants to do it, right? So they don't complain unless there's a real problem. It might be, difficult problems. And sometimes the problems might be, oh, I don't like my manager, my supervisor is shouting at me. In which case, if the complaints are like more than 2 or 3, we can train the supervisor on anger management or how he can get the same work out of them, but by being kinder. So when we have political will from HR or safety, we can do magic. But if you just go into a camp, blah, 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 and tell somebody you're wrong, we're not activists. I'm not an activist. I'm not an NGO. I am a company that has been given a mandate by HR. Please help these people, white collar, blue collar, whoever. So it's easier. Awareness still has to be created. People who are suffering, they know they're suffering. Oh, I can't sleep. Oh, I can't stop overthinking. How do I control my thoughts? And when you talk to them, 5 years ago, I went back to India and my wife had mismanaged the money and my chacha had taken all my land. So now that created a big problem. Now 5 years, fast forward 5 years, I can't sleep right and I get angry at nothing. So he knows it's linked to that. So all you need to do is talk to him, give him the tools, and man, we have such great stories. This guy who was 27 years old, autistic, living in a camp with 5 other guys and has social anxiety because of his autism. He found our number on a poster, called us up. We assigned him the right counselor. This counselor helped him out slowly. So he sent us a picture of his birthday cake. And he's celebrating a birthday with all his workers because now he's managed to get out of his social anxiety. He's still autistic. He still had some problems. But he's 27 years old and that birthday cake is a picture. It's beautiful. So yeah, it's those guys who know they have a problem, easy. We just need to tell them we exist. Those guys who don't know we have a problem, we need to convince them that this overthinking, or even you're smoking a lot, how to fix that habit. Can help you. I grew up as a Pakistani in Saudi Arabia all my life. My dad moved in the 80s. He's an engineer, mashallah. We were well-to-do. Went to the UK to do my engineering. Came back, worked at Procter & Gamble. For me, everything's hunky-dory. But as a Pakistani who grew up in the GCC, you always have this empathy. Because right, your people, this guy looks like your uncle, that guy looks like your chacha. So maybe the fact that we do it well, right, because a lot of the people we work in our team are similar people, similar backgrounds. Maybe the fact that I know how to talk to them is because I'm a Pakistani, or I have grown up here and I understand their pain. I understand the anxieties my dad used to have with his iqama, with his exit re-entry, all those things. I mean, he was an educated guy, he was fine, he had anxiety. So imagine, other people. So maybe the reason we can do it well, I didn't choose this. This project came to us because we were running mental health for a lot of corporates. Somebody found us out and they said, can you help us with the migrant workers as well? I love it. I love doing it. But maybe we do it well or with passion because of it. There's 2 levels of support, right? So my parents have made me an empathetic person, I guess, right? I'm lucky enough to be empathetic. My dad grew up very, very poor. MashaAllah, he made it. The other angle to this is my wife. So when she met me, I was working at Procter & Gamble, swanky job. I flew her to Spain. We got married, la-di-da. But I think she's a very nice person. She understands that if I'm not internally happy, there's no happiness generally. She doesn't want me to do a corporate job if I'm not happy with it. I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. She doesn't love bling as much as maybe the next person. She understands that if you're happy internally, there's more barakah in it. It's easier to do. I've not cut back on my life. Alhamdulillah, we are profitable, we're good, the company is doing well. So, I do pay myself less, but I do have a profit share, dividend and stuff. So alhamdulillah, we're okay now at the moment. Very hard road. When you're running this sort of a small company, you don't know one day to the next. You're not thinking too much about these legacies. This is a very lovely privilege for when you are really big. What I do know is the past 4 to 7 years have made me hopefully a better person. You understand how risk flows. You understand how privilege and what bad people can do and what good people can do. So we see both on the ground, right? I've seen resilience. So maybe the only legacy is I have a daughter, she's 6, that I've become a better person. So maybe I'll tell her how to treat money better or how to check her privilege better. Virasa, the inheritance of a Muslim is his character. So what we give to our children is the character, and what we get from our parents is character. It's not the money, it's not the legacy. So the legacy is the character. Make a good person somehow. If you start a company and it does good or bad, it makes you a philosopher. COVID was actually very good for us. It psychoeducated everybody, right? COVID was bad for most people, good for us. There was a time in COVID I was working 3 jobs because this company wasn't making any money. And the thing I was working most hard at was this company was making me the least money, but the thing I was just not even working at was making me the most money. So I'm like, right, there's no relationship between hard work and money in some way. So a lot of it could be luck, it could be right time, whatever, I don't know. So also what happens then is, every now and then we'll get these, oh, we want to acquire your company. Or a big project might come or might go. 5 years ago, I used to be like, whoa, very happy, it's happening. Or no, it's not happening, depressed. It's just, so the other legacy that I might have learned compared to my peers when maybe I'm 55 is I might be more emotionally stable because these things have stopped phasing me so much. I'm like, yeah, when the PO comes, it comes. When this thing signs, it signs. So it's a leap of faith, but it really teaches you how the world works according to the ether. It's so weird. It is so interesting. I have met now a lot of entrepreneurs who don't have a very strong biz dev department. All of this growth that we've seen is without any without any sales guy, right? It's just me, my founders, our connections. And eventually, one HR person will leave, for example, Reckitt and go to Safi Danone. And she'll be like, hey, you were great at that company, let's bring you here. So these things happen, the network effects happen. I can't even I love hearing entrepreneurship war stories because they really tell you how the world really works. Oh, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe, people who build things, they really know how it really happens. When you start something, it's very, very hard. And if you don't give up and you keep going, good things happen. You need to know when to give up. That's an art in itself, right? But if you keep going and you keep going with the right intention, if you're doing it for a deeper cause, for a passion, you won't give up when the going gets tough. Otherwise, if you're just doing it for money, there's better ways of making money. If you're doing it for a passion, it helps sustain you for a longer time. For me, this is like a test match. We're playing for time. This is not a T20, this is not an ODI, and the easy balls will come, the easy moments will come, but life is like a test match, and real stuff only happens in maybe a few pockets. It's not always happening, it's pretty boring. And then suddenly, tuck, 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 tuck. Oh my God, I missed those 20 minutes of play. The whole possibility.
My name is Dr. Maryam. I'm a specialist psychiatrist. I'm an alumni of the Howard Medical School for their research program as well as their trauma program, and I'm the fellow of the European Psychiatry Board. I'm a mother of 2 girls. I've been living here in Bahrain for quite some time, and I have a podcast, Dr. Move Mentally, on Instagram. I have had a beautiful journey in life where I've traveled across the world in different places. I have a good perspective of how people are and how lives are in a non-judgmental way. If we were to look at mental illnesses and disorders, it's a big umbrella, right? So we can't really specifically say what brings what on. For example, let's go back to basics. For example, if you have a cold or you have an influenza, the prodromal effects that you would feel in yourself would be a slight headache, a slight sneeze here and there, and it's, a cold is coming. In mental health illnesses, well, every specific illness would have a specific prodromal phase. Now that can last for someone for weeks, for months, even years. So, for example, let's talk about depression. And if someone is slumping into depression, the things that one should note specifically start from sleep. Now, the sleep pattern will be disturbed. How so? You might start waking up 4 a.m. in the morning, and instead of sleeping for 8 hours, you might be sleeping for 5 hours. Your appetite is disrupted. And biologically, with these signs, of course, you will have weight loss. And these are very subtle changes. They're not very obvious, right? But they do come in a phase where, you have to be in tune to the fact that you are spiraling down. The most important thing is, social withdrawal. You start withdrawing from people, from friends, and start shutting yourself off. So these are some of the things that we look into. Perhaps if we look into depression for teenagers, now their depression is quite different. They might start getting aggressive and you wouldn't know. You might suggest and say, well, maybe that's teenage turmoil. But no, at the end of the day, perhaps they're spiraling into something more serious, which is called depression. Anxiety, for example. If you start waking up around 1:32 at night, that's an indication you're getting into anxiety. And so every disease, every illness would have a phase. But then again, we have to understand that our awareness in mental health education is so very important. If we are aware of these signs, only then we can realize that we are truly getting the crux of mental health. We get a lot of people going through that phase. And we call that phase a rundown phase. That is your self-awareness phase. Now, most importantly, the thing that is very critical to get into therapy is something we call psychological mindedness, which means, am I ready? Because therapy requires a commitment over time, your dedication to do certain homeworks and learn the skills. And if you are not psychologically minded at that point, I don't think you're ready for therapy. So what do? You know there's something happening and you want to get therapy, yet there's so many things around, hindrances and boundaries that you've set for yourself. So number one would be make yourself aware. And it comes down to the same basics. Get yourself self-educated around what's happening to me. Articles, there are apps around which can really help you, get through what you're going. And just around that phase where you feel as though, I think something is happening and I need to talk to someone, be it your friends, your family, someone, just hold on to that space where you can share that sorrow or just grieve. And that can really help you delve into the path where you can be ready for therapy or even talk to a psychiatrist, which I think is a big step beyond that. So it's multidimensional because we see someone going through a phase, for example, a psychological crisis or a mental breakdown, but we don't see the person beyond that. Isn't that right? We don't see the person, we don't show them the mirror, the loving mirror. And the thing is that the only thing that we need when we are in that relationship where you get that denial, you have to go past it. Now, we don't want to be intrusive. That's the first thing. We don't want to isolate that person, yet we don't want to be imposing and intrusive. So how do we get about that? The only main ingredient that gets you through, and it is curiosity, and it is something that we know, but we don't go beyond that. It's love. Love for that person, for who he is, for who she is, And I think love is something that breaks the barriers beyond, because then you become non-judgmental. I'm just there to hold that space for you. I'm just here to listen to you in a non-judgmental way. You are going through something, but let me just give you that coffee that you like. I think you need that sleep. I think you just need that hug. And I'm not going to talk to you about, what you're going through. Tell me when you're ready, but I'm going to be there. I'm here for you. I'm standing next to you. And that's all you need. You see, cultural values can be taken in two ways. They can help you and they can have an hindrance as well in your mental health journeys for everybody. And so there are certain things. For example, if you belong to a traditional based collectivistic society, like Pakistan, for instance, then there are certain values that we abide by. So for example, what helps? We are very much into families, and we're very community oriented people. We want that, feel of, we hold that space for each other. But if you compare that to the West, where isolation is something that is delving into mental health illnesses, that's where the problem is starting. But in countries like Pakistan, Southeast Asia, we hold that space. We're together. You go to a gynae ward and you will be amazed. Someone is delivering and you see a whole village standing outside. Isn't that true? So we love doing that. And it can go either way, but that's our culture. And if someone does slump down, medically or mentally or otherwise, you're the talk of the town, isn't it? So it can be taken in any context, but it is, as we say, it's a loving environment, take it as it is, but we have to understand different cultures and contexts, right? Then again, countries like us have faith. We have religion to pull our back up against, spirituality. Everything that you go through in life, we have that faith, as you said, tawakkal Allah, we have Him, we have Allah to support us through it. So compared to the West, so that is something to pull our back up against. And there are other things, for example, something that really helps us around is, we have a nation that has gone through social and economical crisis. We've been through ups and downs, and I think we're a very resilient nation. And when I talk about resilience, it's from the core, from the baseline, from a child to an adult, from an old person. We're very resilient. And so that really helps us come through in our mental health journeys compared to many other countries, I would say. Now, talking about hindrances would be number one, stigma. I mean, it's not only Pakistan, it's the world round. We have stigma in the West as well, and we don't want to talk about something that gives us labels. We don't want to be out there to be called someone who is related to a mental illness, say, I'm not crazy, and mental illness has a history, and we'll come to it someday. Why was stigma there in the first place for mental illnesses, right? Why do we define people going through a difficult journey as someone who's crazy? So, being labeled, young women, young people who are in the prospects of getting married, rishta, won't come because proposals might not come because you're labeled as someone who's just gone through therapy or just went to a psychiatrist. Psychiatry has helped a lot. I've seen a lot of women, young women coming out, reaching out to us because it was not, overt. It was not out in the obvious, and so they would call us and tell us about their mental health problems, and also that really helps. So label is one thing that we do not accept, yeah. And so other things would be lack of mental health awareness as well. It's something like depression. It will be dismissive from the older generation. They would say, well, it's a drama, isn't it? And then spiritual healing. We're not into the conventional, say, medical healing, or we're not into therapies and all, but we'd rather go to spiritual healers to heal ourselves. So that is kind of like a hindrance in our mental health journeys. We are driven by stereotypes, traditional roles, and we're very fixated. A woman should be in a certain way to be accepted for a certain role in our society. And for that role to be accepted, she has to perform in a certain way. To be a mother in a certain way, to be a daughter-in-law in a certain way, to work in a place in a certain way. A lot of restrictions, isn't that right? So when you are in that vicious circle of performing and going through that in and out, you lose yourself. You lose your self-identity right then and there. And you talked about trauma. A lot of women go through, this is trauma. When your personality is being fixed into this tiny little box of what the culture or the country or the people around you want you to be, you're not yourself. You never were. That is trauma in itself. You cannot talk about who you are, what you want to be, and what role you want to take. Imagine that restriction. And so when you can't get out of that box, you're restricted. You have to play that role. We have to understand that the more awareness that we have around this subject, and especially trauma, when women go through trauma, there is this circle where you cannot get out unless someone pulls you out. Be it a friend or family or anyone, you need that help. We need that women's support. We need our girl gang to pull us out through all of these difficulties. Otherwise, it's just that circle where even if you try to get your wings out and fly about, they will be cut. I think the prime objective of our meeting today and talking about mental health is a first stepping stone towards a wider audience in which we want to convey this message that yes, mental health is extremely important. It's a life skill. And we have to ingrain that not only as adults, but we have to ingrain that in our kids. We have to, because it's a skill that will help us pull ourselves out of crisis and pull other people out of crisis where things are not obvious. Mental health is not obvious. We have to make it obvious. Psychiatry is very different to conventional medicine in a way that, unless and until a psychiatrist or a therapist is aware of the cultural norms, he or she is unaware of the mental illnesses around. So there's a new thing coming up, and this will be a specialized psychiatry field, which is called transcultural psychiatry, where we treat people according to cultural and traditional contexts. And that will be, hopefully in the coming years, get more evolved, but that requires more research, that requires more involvement, that requires more expertise, as per se. But then again, it's very, very important for us to understand that for psychiatry, for psychology to develop, we have to understand people and their traditions and where they come from, their stories and their journeys. Everyone is unique, every area is unique, every country is unique. So if you want to be an aspiring psychiatrist or psychologist, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of your people around you, and you'll do the best you can. Shahmeen and Saba have done an amazing work with Qyssa. Qyssa means stories, stories of our lives, stories of well-being of people, and stories of the contexts of the ups and downs of life. And it's not only the beginning. I think it will be an infinite, bountiful, beautiful journey. Talking about people, and I would really want to commend Shahmeen and Saba because they're doing an amazing job talking about the tiniest things, the happinesses, the worries, and it is so beautiful because we've lost that. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about people in their crux. We don't do that anymore, and I think it's very important for us to get back to that traditional aspect of who we are. And I think Shahmeen and Saba are doing a great job with helping us getting back to what we call humanity.
Thank you for watching Qyssa and giving it so much love.
As always, we are overjoyed to bring you these qissas